Hello, I'm Katie Thompson, owner and artist behind Snow Bunny Studios, and today I'd like to talk a bit about applying foundation and prepping the skin for that.
You may have noticed that the intro of this video is not the same as what I'm wearing now. Thanks to some real life complications, I had to reshoot all of the previous video. I'm going to do a voiceover for the rest of this because, as you can tell, my voice is gone.
First off, I'm going to put on some of the Smashbox color correcting primer because I have a very red undertone. I do this to give myself a very neutral base and also to help my makeup wear longer at a convention. Then the next step I do is to prime my eyes. Here I'm using the Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion. Now with the primer and the primer potion, you don't necessarily have to use the expensive brands. There are plenty of brands on the market now that are much less expensive than things like Smashbox and Urban Decay. Also, if you prefer, you can also use a brush or a sponge, but for this step I just prefer to use my hands. Now that I've gotten my skin ready, I'm going to show you 4 different ways of applying your foundation, and I'll be using MAC Match Master in 7.0. So I've put a little bit of the Match Master on the back of my hand here, and I'll just working it over my skin with my fingers. It's really no more complicated than this. You just want to make sure that you've got a smooth finish and there's no streaking, and you've got an even coat of foundation all over your skin. This also includes over your eyes as well to make sure everything is even and seamless. If you've got any spots that look streaky or uneven, you can pat them with your fingers. If you're applying makeup on someone else, I would suggest you either wash your hands if you plan to use this method, or use a sponge or a brush instead. And here's the finished results from applying the foundation with my fingers. A very even, natural looking coat. Worked it well into the skin. When using a makeup sponge, you want to first soak it in a little water so that it doesn't absorb too much of the foundation. Here I'm just squeezing out a little of the extra liquid. And then, just as with your fingers, you're just going to work it over your skin in a thin coat. It doesn't much matter how you apply the foundation over your face. Some people say work from the center out, some people say work in quadrants. In any case, the only thing that actually matters is having a flawless finish. If you have a lot of peach fuzz, however, particularly along your cheeks and jawline, then I would definitely suggest moving in a downward motion to help push some of that down and camouflage it over the skin. Just make sure when you do this that you're not pulling too terribly hard, because you don't want to harm your skin and encourage wrinkling and creasing. And that's it for applying makeup with a sponge. You get medium coverage and pretty much the same even results. The foundation brush can absorb quite a bit of product if you're not careful. So if you first apply your moisturizer with the brush before using it for your foundation, it'll help prevent it soaking up a lot of the product and you going through it even faster. But basically much the same as with your makeup sponge. You work around the face much in the same way, making sure to blend and making sure everything is seamless. If you find yourself doing your friend's makeup quite often at conventions, then you probably want to invest in some good quality brushes. You won't create nearly as much waste as you will with sponges. And don't dip directly into the container. And there you go for applying makeup with a foundation brush. Here I'm actually using a kabuki brush, but this also works for goat hair brushes and stippling brushes as well. The difference in this technique is the fact that you're buffing it into the skin, working in really tight circles. With this technique, you can also get a really light coverage that looks almost airbrushed onto the skin. However, if you do want a heavier coverage, just repeat the steps and it's easily quite buildable. However, if you have a drier skin, you probably want to be careful or avoid this technique altogether because you can exfoliate the skin and possibly irritate it. And that's it for applying foundation with a powder brush. It has a very natural but still airbrushed finish. Next, here's a couple different ways of setting your foundation. Using translucent powder is an easy way to make sure your makeup doesn't move or sweat out throughout your day. Here, having actually shaken off the bulk of the loose powder that's on the brush, I'm simply working in tight circles to buff it over the skin. If you're concerned about the powder either being too light or too dark, or if you would like to accentuate some of the contouring you've done, you can actually find powders that are already pre-tinted. And that's how you apply translucent powder using a powder brush. Here I'm using a makeup wedge, but a powder puff works just as well for this. You lightly dab the sponge or powder puff over your skin, but as you're dabbing, you're rolling it over your skin. Hopefully I'm demonstrating this well enough and not blocking it completely with my compact. But essentially, as you work over your skin to blend it, you continue to roll the powder puff or makeup sponge over the skin. And that's all there is to it. An optional step is to spray yourself with a finishing mist to avoid looking cakey. And that concludes my tutorial that covers everything from prepping and priming the skin, applying foundation, as well as setting your makeup. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today and watching my tutorial, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye!